Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for May 9th, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Kim and I did some morning birding, first at the Firehouse Woods and then at the Lakeville Community Church Trail. Here we have a Nashville warbler. Here's a great crested flycatcher, and I really enjoy their deep raspy call notes. There were quite a few warbling vireos, many of them singing, and here we have 3 of them that were perched in the top of a tree. This male yellow warbler posed nicely for us. And here's an interesting looking bird. See if you can figure out what it is. It's got a lot of splotchy white on the back and white in the tail. We see a little bit of orange here though, and it looks like a yellow bill and a little bit of white around the eye. How about now with more of a side view? So this is an American robin with some sort of pigment issue, and there's certain species that this seems to happen more often in, and American robin is one of them. So over the years, I've seen quite a few robins that are either completely white or kind of splotchy white, just like this one. And there were quite a few Baltimore orioles at the church trail as well. It got over to Braddock Bay Park, where it was pretty much a sunny day, but actually there was a really thin, high layer of clouds, and throughout the day that thickened quite a bit. So kind of a weird sky because it just looked hazy when you looked up. You couldn't see much texture. The winds today were out of the northeast, starting out somewhat moderate, and then at some points hardly any wind at all. And normally on a northeast wind, we would move into Frisbee Hill Park, but actually the flight line stayed over the platform today. Mostly turkey vultures, didn't really have a broad-wing flight at all, so we stayed at the platform the whole day. Here's a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk, so you can see that accipiter shape with the long tail. It's got a relatively small head, more rounded, compact wings than its larger cousin, the Cooper's hawk, and the tail feathers are all about the same length, giving it a squared off or even slightly notched appearance to the tail tip. Here we have a juvenile Cooper's hawk, so we see slightly larger head, although in this photo it's tilting his head down a little, so it's not as obvious. Very straight wings, a little lankier looking, a little bit of a longer looking tail with a rounded tip, and teardrop streaking, mostly on the upper breast. Here's an eastern kingbird that was perched in the field, and remember to look for those white tail tips on kingbirds. Here's a juvenile red-tailed hawk. So for red tails, we see those dark patagial bars in the belly band, and the juveniles do not have the dark trailing edge or the red tail. Compare that to this adult red-tailed hawk, where again we see the dark patagial bars and the belly band, but the adults do have a dark trailing edge to the wing and a red tail, although the red is more obvious from the top side. From below, sometimes it depends on the light conditions. And once again, the local adult Cooper's hawk was chasing turkey vultures. Any vulture that came low through his airspace, he was going right after them. Here's another juvenile red-tailed hawk. So again, you see those dark patagial bars and the belly band. The trailing edge looks slightly dark. Sometimes it depends on the lighting, but this is a juvenile because we see that banded tail and overall pale appearance. And this bulge here is a full crop, which means it has eaten recently. Here we have an osprey cruising by pretty low, so probably one of the locals. We did have a few broad-winged hawks today. Here's an adult. You can see that brown barring underneath, the dark trailing edge to the wing, and the dark tail with the white band. Throughout the day, we had groups of turkey vultures, up to about 20, 25 individuals in the biggest groups. And we'd go a while without getting them, and then they would all come through at once. Here's a really fresh juvenile bald eagle, so you can see that really dark head, dark underside to the body. The juveniles have mostly dark wings, except for a lot of white in the wing pit area here. The trailing edge to the wing is even because all of the feathers are the same age. It's just a really crisp, fresh-looking bird, so this is probably one that was born relatively recently, certainly over the past few months. And we always assume these are coming from what we would call the southern population of bald eagles. So probably born somewhere down south of us over the winter. And here we have an immature bald eagle, so older than the juvenile, a little more ragged looking. And towards the end of the day, we had a pair of sandhill cranes soaring around, and they even called for us once or twice. And just before we were getting ready to go, this green heron made a nice flyby. Taking a look at the eBird checklist, we had 31 species at the Firehouse Woods, and the highlight was a singing Lincoln sparrow. It's a song that I don't hear very often, so it was cool to hear that. At the Lakeview Community Church Trail, we had 52 species, and we walked the entire trail and back, so basically slightly over a mile each direction. And really beautiful morning to be out walking there, and a lot of birds calling, not really any rarities, but just a really nice spring morning to be out. And from Braddock Bay Park today, we had 58 species. Taking a look at the HawkCount report for our migrant raptor totals, today we had 286 turkey vultures, 6 bald eagles, 2 northern harriers, 10 sharp-shinned hawks, 4 Cooper's hawks. For buteos, we had 3 broadwings and 6 red tails. And the only falcon of the day was a merlin. It was going the wrong way and hunting, so it did not count it as a migrant. So we had a total of 317 migrant raptors today. That brings the May total to 6,330, and the season total to 43,155. Taking a look at the forecast, tomorrow is looking sunny as we have a high pressure system sitting just off to the southwest, high up around 70, so fairly warm considering some of the colder temperatures we've had in recent weeks. Winds west-northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And actually in the early morning, I think it starts out more of a southwesterly wind, but by 9 or 10 a.m., that'll be shifting around towards that west-northwest. So the winds early might be slightly favorable along with sunny skies. Maybe we'll start to get a bit of a flight, but as the winds shift, it's an okay wind direction, that west-northwest. We had a big flight on it the other day, but the main concern will just be those blue skies as we have a high-pressure system. Make it really hard to spot the birds as they get up high, and the birds tend to be high on the days with the westerly winds. So might be birds moving, but I bet they'll be up pretty high and difficult to spot. But of course, we'll do our best to spot as many as possible. For Thursday, it's looking pretty similar, mainly sunny, high in the mid-70s, winds west-northwest at 10 to 15. So again, would expect at least moderate migration, but really tough skies for spotting because of the lack of clouds. And for Friday, partly cloudy in the morning and then cloudy with a high in the mid-70s, winds west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So I would expect light to moderate migration, but we'll keep an eye on that. That may improve if the forecast changes. And the next few nights are looking pretty good for songbird migration. I think we're looking at moderate migration tonight and then maybe good migration the next 2 nights. So some really nice days coming up, really nice spring mornings. So get out. We're coming into the peak of the warbler migration. A lot of very, very colorful birds around. The leaves aren't out yet to hide all the birds, so this is a really great time to get outside in the early morning, even as early as 5:45 a.m. The birds are singing, and sunrise is probably around 6 or maybe slightly earlier now. So get out if you have the chance and really enjoy these May mornings while we have them. Spring migration is sort of a short window here for the songbirds, so make sure that you make the most of it over these next few weeks, and I hope to see you out in the field. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.